I picked a fun title. I'd like to eventually, submit an article to maybe one of the Buddhist publications like Tricycle or I don't know. Is there still Shambhala Sun, maybe? Yeah, lines were. I mean, yeah. Um, I haven't done a full literature search, but mostly articles are geared toward American audiences, which is how to kind of individually do our practice, um, or geared toward uh, mostly daily life practice. Um, so I still need to do a literature search to see, like, are there any articles or books like how to start a Dharma center and why not to? So that's kidding. So oh, I thought today I'd also like to have a discussion and hear from people, because um, there's also a certain level of mythology which is good, and because we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary in this building, but as far as practicing in Sacramento uh, since about 1988, something like that. Or be thinking of, like, I've always wanted to know, why do we do this? Or when did that start? And I may give you a false memory answer, because just as a disclaimer, like, uh, that's the way memory works, right? But I'll try to be somewhat accurate. But that's really only one old timer in the audience here. So there's not a lot of corroboration or difference, but we'll see. For me, Linesor is a community chaplaincy temple. We're not a retreat center. We're not an academic school. Um, we're not a psychotherapy clinic like that. We're a chaplaincy temple in the sense that I want to train people, whether they're ordained chaplains or not, but train people that whose motivation is bodhisattva motivation and bodhicitta motivation to be of service to the community, and not just people who identify themselves as Buddhist or in our tradition, but in general to the community. So it has an extroverted outreach, right? So now we're doing 3 recovery groups a week, and we have Tai Chi here and yoga, in addition to all the meditation sessions and expressions, listening teachers and so forth. Um, I'd like to do even more. I'd like to be known in Sacramento as a community resource, not just this interesting Buddhist temple tucked away in Esac. The difficult part is how to explain how you become a chaplaincy temple, how we train. So I'll try. It's different than an academic program like in college or grad school or even a seminary program in traditional Judeo-Christian religions, because Buddhism really isn't a religion. It's a path of transformation. Of course, it has religious aspects because that's just what, that rituals and interesting things, because that's just what us human beings do, right? Traditionally. But it can be confusing because we're not religion, except for the IRS. That's important. We're a transformative organization. In other words, I expect that if people do the practices and participate in the Sangha, the person you thought you were when you started will not be the person after several years or 5 years or 10 years. Or in my case, let's count, but maybe 53 years. In fact, our sense of who we are is constantly evolving, really. Probably that's the most difficult, as we generally have an idea of our transformation and what it should look like when we start, correct? But of course, when we start, we're in pain and confused, if we're honest with ourselves. So our sense of liberation or transformation may not be entirely accurate. So the role of teachers and the staff is to help people guide themselves, and we offer guidance in this what I call Shambhala journey, this path of transformation. And a big part of the path of transformation is you're doing it all wrong. So, doing it all wrong means people are going to tell us we're doing it all wrong. And we probably will be doing a lot of it all wrong. And we'll be telling others you're doing it all wrong, and they'll probably be doing it all wrong. So when I say doing it all wrong, we'll be doing it just from an idea that our awareness, our fundamental rigpa is owned by us somehow, and that there's a little fence around it. Our fundamental awareness, our intelligence is completely interdependent and shared, and there's no fence around it. So all kinds of people come and go, and this open field. So the open field, of course, includes us thinking we're doing it all wrong, us thinking others are doing it all wrong, and then thinking we're doing it all wrong from time to time. For us, just for perspective, like as far as like where we are right now in Lions Roar, we're doing incredibly all the right stuff. My God. But learning how to work with this sense of judging and discriminating and condemning and anger toward ourselves and others is one of the most challenging parts of having community. Do you agree? Generally, people know that because I say it all the time, like the folks are coming against their wall, or they're just about to hit the wall when they come to me and say, everyone's kind of an idiot here, and if you just let me run things, I can fix it. And the crash ends soon after that, and it's, I want to point it out that we all have that experience and those thoughts, like, and our job with ourselves and others is to help that person recover from that hit if we can, and maybe help them learn how to like plant flowers at the wall, and kind of feel the wall a little bit before you try to hammer through it or something. So if we're doing the practice correctly, which means that we're getting together on a regular basis, doing our yogas at home or wherever, doing projects together, we'll hit that wall. So in a way, I do want people to hit that wall, because that wall is our fixed idea of who we are, fixed idea of who everyone else is supposed to be. And we have to come in contact with that I call the misperceived self, or uh, the belief that things have inherent existence from their own side, to be philosophic like that, or just ego, if you want to say it. So our task is to, like, if possible, slow people down a little bit, so when they hit the wall, but their judgments and our judgments hit the wall, then we do have our seatbelt on. Or well, let me raise it. Has anybody ever had a motorcycle accident? Yeah, you want your helmet on, right? Obviously, you're still alive. So what's different between us and like kind of real life or outside life is, when you come in here, we do say, please put on your seatbelt. And if you're skateboarding, wear a helmet. I mean, how many skateboarders want to wear a helmet that are under 30? But okay, but we have to say it, because you're going to fall down. I mean, we're kind of so. But we don't want people to die when they hit the wall, but they will, and we will. And then the next phase of training starts there. Like, what do you do then, right? Like that. So it's true, we have to reach the edge where we feel internally that we're doing it all wrong, or they're doing it all wrong, because we will. So it's what we do. The next phase of the practice is, how do we work with that? I'm so old that, I remember the Vietnam War, there's a big comic strip called Pogo, a little bit subversive. So I think the character said, "We have met the enemy and it's us." So there's no way to radically eject the world of misperceived self, belief in inherent existence. You're doing it all wrong. I'm bad, wrong, and stupid. But there's a way to teach people how to work with that and to bring it into view. And then we teach people how to explore the wall and plant flowers. One of my favorite books, like growing up, was Secret Garden. You know, so there's need to have open gardens, but then it's neat to have like the secret garden, isn't it? So with of course beautiful walls and things like that. So for those people doing tantra, we're creating our secret garden with our mandala walls and walls of fire and walls of water and walls of darjes and so forth. So from Dzogchen point of view, from high level point of view, we're not trying to eliminate the wall. The practice of touching the wall after you hit it, planting flowers, culminates, of course, and not just being on the wall or destroying it, but being the wall, correct? So that's why I say we don't want to be on either side of the fence. We don't want to be on the fence. We want to be the fence. So like that. So when I say like being the wall, that's probably another um, um, talk that um, where we become completely familiar with the complete connection of subject and object, so that uh, when we're rejecting ourselves or rejecting others, then we immediately see uh, the, the process of how that arises interdependently, correct? So we experience at that point the complete open awareness, and we don't have to like break down the wall. This is a tantric approach. It's a tantric approach. So we're not here to like smash duality. We're here to have an enlightened duality. Enlightened duality means we've discovered that you can draw a line down the middle of the road, and that way people can drive north-south on it without hitting each other. Whereas false, the Buddha said, but the Advaita approach is to eliminate the line. Now, there's something to that because if you've ever driven in India, I know there are lines now, okay, but at the day there are no lines, So, people are just going like this, like that. So, the neat part about no lines, of course, is that there's a different sense of like merging with people, and you have to really be paying attention. But in fact, in India, people do get run over, So from our point of view, we want to bring people to that wall, that place, that boundary, but the boundary doesn't become a fixed boundary. It becomes an open boundary, correct? Like that. Is this making sense? So haven't said much about like, I don't know, the history or how we ended up with the temple and all that. But it's been a series of walls. So I'm just going to stop here and see if we have any basic questions before part two. Part two is, well, you can ask questions are like, why do we do this? but I'll also introduce those in part 2.
Thanks, Lama, for your great teaching. So, I have this problem where I think, and the wall doesn't exist. I think they call it denial. And so how do we define the wall without, running head into it and hurting ourselves?
Yeah, the big question. That's why we do all these practices, you see. So we create playful situations. So like we have a wooden mandala here, which we haven't really used that much ritually, but creating sand mandalas, of course, is playing in the sand. We're playing to find out how definition and wholeness work together, right? We do artwork uh, and or have art classes. I think there's a waiting list now, Ken. We do yoga and martial arts and performance so that in a safe situation, we can play ourselves into wisdom. See, that's why we're doing all this, because when we were kids, we may have learned some ways to get along with others and grow up and learn who we are and get our needs and wants met. But a lot of the time, we there was not the safety net there. So, when we took a fall, it was on the hard concrete, and then it's hard to recover from that, right? So much of the meditations we do and the rituals and all that are sophisticated play to learn how to work with and be the boundary, be the wall, like that. And they're real life things here too, right? Isn't we're not just we're kind of do ritual things and then we have to mow the lawn and we have to fix things and we have to make financial decisions and so forth. So, but in a way that still has a certain kind of play quality, right? Because it's in a Dharma setting where we understand that it's still practice. Although it's easy to lose that perspective sometimes. So my teacher used to say, I know someone's level of practice from what happens in business meetings. Like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I'm appreciating this too, but I wanted to question some of the finer points because I thought I heard you say it both ways. I heard you say we have to hit the wall like a hard hit to learn our lessons. But then I heard you talk about, sort of finding the wall and planting flowers, and it sounds a lot more soft. And I'm wondering, isn't it possible to get skillful with our practices so that we can sort of anticipate that hard boundary and not hit it at 60 miles an hour? Do we really need to have the pain of hitting the wall, or can we, do sort of a soft approach and sort of feel it out and explore it and not have it be so painful?
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, we don't really have to hit the wall. And we're training to see it coming. And but we're also training to help people that are bloody after hitting the wall. But Dharma developmentally, it seems like we have to come to some kind of edge or bottom that is a little bit shocking, a little bit provocative, at least at certain key moments. But most of the time, we're getting better at not only seeing it coming, but building appropriate walls, right? Appropriate boundaries for people, so that we're helping create structure for people, which is what a Dharma center is. But I don't really want anybody to have a hard bottom. There's no reason, and that's real. That's samsara, is people keep making difficult choices that hurt themselves and others. So, but there has to be a little something where there's, I would say, at least some kind of spark, right? There has to be some kind of like that, because the tendency can be, we don't want to hit the wall, so we don't want that kind of disruption, but then we try to smooth everything over too much too. So we want a little bit of spark, but we don't want a forest fire. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. If may I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, sure.
Just reflecting on what you're saying, maybe the really painful part is watching other people run into it. And I'm wondering if what we do, when we see other people like speeding towards the wall at 60 miles an hour, how to get skillful at preventing the bloodiness for other people, because that's almost as harder to watch.
Yeah, it's just horrible to watch. You're completely on it. Yeah. So that's what I call the chaplaincy training. Chaplaincy training is my kind of way of saying that's our bodhisattva activity. So the more professional or skillful way we can prevent others from harming themselves and others, or helping people recover is fantastic. But Buddhas are not omniscient, they're not, I'm sorry, omnipotent. They're omniscient, but not omnipotent. So Buddhas cannot prevent, merited karma. So once the bullet's left, it's going to have its effect. So that's different than the other religions, really. All of the others, as there's not the ability to intervene in history and just fix it. We have to start a new karmic chain, and we have to pick up the pieces, because the Dharma program is primarily educational. So the worst heartbreak is when we're trying to benefit others, and it really doesn't work. But usually Dharma people, and Dalai Lama is a good example, is an example taking the long view, right? So from classical point of view, we see that people are going to have many lifetimes to work on things. Not that we're not promoting passivity, but people we're this infinite mind stream, so we're not ever totally, there's no such thing as total failure, because, but yeah, and in this lifetime, some of our friends and family are just not, it's not going to kick in as we would hope, and that's where half of our Dharma life, or half of life, is grieving, right? Because there's gain and then there's loss, so we grieve it like that. So temples are also one big grief support group a little bit. Yeah, we need to comfort each other. We need to say, okay, and then I tried something, it didn't work, and we can't always be what I call Job's friends, right? I was a religion major, so I actually read that. So like God and Satan are betting, which sounds really real. And you know, so God sends all this stuff to Job, and Job's friends either try to comfort him or say, "Well, you must have done something wrong." So that's part of my title today. You must have done something wrong. But a lot of times, really, like no one's to blame. It's just no one's to blame, and that's another thing that's very unique about Dharma is, of course, we have our individual karma and so forth like that, but karma is also a collective thing, and there's no one to blame. Generally, I would say just kind of recovery. If someone's still blaming, they're not in recovery. That's it. It's not about use as much as, they're still blaming. I don't care. It's like you just kind of. So it's that's Dharma's kind of always right in the middle like that. We're not. We're always saying, we're interdependent with the situation. It's extremely high level teaching. It's like 8 verses, of course, of very high level.
Hi, Lama.
Cool.
Thank you. Speaking of recovery, thinking the analogy of hitting the wall is hitting bottom, and that's coming out of all of that denial of the consequences, right? And finally, the denial is broken through by a smack, if you will. And maybe we don't have to smack the wall, but I'm wondering if that's kind of a analogous in the sense of like we have to stop is it kind of like we have to stop making samsara nirvana, and is it kind of taking refuge when we hit the wall? Like we're realizing that we can't keep going on the way we've been trying to make this all work. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, I should clarify, it's not a wake up when we hit the wall. That we're coming really in contact with our fixation. It's what happens after that. How we recover from that or see it like that. So we're training people to like in a way to see what happens after that, because we're hitting the wall because we're not realizing we are the wall. Like that. So hopefully, through our play, our training play, ritual play, then there's a kind of a bounce even like that. But as I was saying in that 10 o'clock meditation, we're training to the middle way, which is the balance of intention and non-intention. That there's always a balance. That. So, in a way, I don't get back to Ellen's question. It's not necessary to really hit it at all. That there's no wake up then. Usually, actually, we just end up being stunned. But it's in the what happens afterwards. Yeah. Allah.
Yeah, we have a question online.
Oh, okay.
This is from Pancho de Souza. Hi, everyone. Tori and I miss you all.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. And then question, what can we do if the wall is an emotional one built by ourselves? In other words, what if the wall is a protective mechanism from trauma and fear of vulnerability?
uh, there's kind of like we have a misperception around boundary. That's the problem. So personal self, any kind of self is always going to be, I'm this, I'm not that. That's the creation of self is I'm this, I'm not that, the very basic level. When we're not paying attention or we're asleep, we don't see the connection between me and the object. We don't see a connection between subject and object. So when we're having some teachings and get some insight, then we see, oh, it's useful to have a line in the center of the road, and then a boundary, and then we can say, please, drive on your I'll drive on my right and you drive on your right, or India, you drive on your left, I'll drive on my left, and then it works like that. So it's understanding how boundaries actually work, and much of the time, of course, they're too loose, so not too tight. So I mean, I could title this talk like you're doing everything just fine. No walls, and don't have to have any boundaries, and that's an equally bad mistake. So everyone, not everyone, but most people know Judy Taylor, my business manager at Mental Health. So we some joke around every once in a while, and she's saying, Lama, if you didn't put all your time into having to work, you'd have a huge Dharma center. But you have this problem. You don't tell everybody they're brilliant. Okay. So many students have come, but they're not my student the minute I say no. And that's a wall. It could be a boundary, you see, a good boundary that someone could then push off at, because good boundaries are like the floor. Then you have something to push against, and you have traction like that. So some of my favorite sayings are, the best practice is the one you actually do. And I'm everyone's Lama until I say no. Or someone says no, we have a hard time with no, because when we're, under stress and tired, then we pretty much regress to about a 2-year-old level. Like that. So when we say hitting the wall, it really means we've misunderstood how boundaries work. But I don't know anybody that hasn't struggled in their practice. I like talking to teachers and Western and Tibetan and Japanese, and I'm good at getting people to open up to me, because I'll be open, and what did you struggle with coming up, and there are always struggles. It's never like, I just popped out of, and everything was great. But it had struggles. Bhavna Baba had struggles, right? So Milarepa had struggles. Dalai Lama's had struggles. We've all, correct? Yeah. So of course, when we're thinking correctly, meditating correctly, where the boundary is defined but flexible, right? I don't know. Hope that's helpful. Hmm. I'm not clear. Is somebody asking a question? Oh, okay, good. Matthews.
Feel like our questions are having you repeat the whole first part of the talk with different words, which is very helpful. So I'm going to do a little more of that. As you mentioned towards the end, something about having the difference between having a solid boundary and a wide open boundary, I think is how you put it. And I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about that.
Well, a wide open boundary doesn't mean that it's, wishy-washy. It could be like plexiglass. When you are the boundary, you can see on both sides. That's important, because we're in the middle. But the way we train, of course, is that the boundary is going to evolve with the situation based on bodhicitta. So it can be very definite, but at the same time be flexible.
Thank you.
I mean, the only way to learn it, though, sometimes is, we can talk about it, but the only way to learn it is like, who's gonna, like take care of the IT situation, who's gonna write the letter to Yansi Rinpoche, it's like that we have to actually do something. We can't just be completely theoretical. Theory does help, so we have an overall view, but and then in meditation we kind of play with the view and do our inner experiment, but then the action part is, we just say, well, okay, we're gonna do this or that. So we never really know until we actually enact it. And us monkeys want to have our cake and eat it too, we want to know what it tastes like before we taste it. Like that. So, like, I mean, we can watch others like, okay, they ate it and they didn't die, right? So, like, like that. But we do have to put our, hand in the stream and feel the flow. There's no way that we have to get involved and put on our big boots. I'm not sure that's hitting your point, but you can ask something else. Please clarify.
I mean, that's helpful for me. It sounds like with boundaries, I usually want to like have a recipe that's going to be applied. And it sounds like you're saying that in involvement, things arise spontaneously, and that boundaries have to arise in those moments also.
Actually, I'm saying things are a mixture of intention and spontaneity. See, we create things, we set things in motion, but there's also so many factors that things aren't going to turn out exactly. So we're trying to be in the middle. Like we have to plan, and we have to also be aware that we might have to change plans. But it's always the middle between planning and spontaneity. So it's neither one. It's always that middle. That's the contact. That's the boundary right there. But we never know exactly what it is to be in the middle until we're doing it. Parenting is a really good that. Well, we have a view. You have a view the middle way. We have a view of interconnection and shared awareness, and we see how subject and object arise together, right? So the big problem is we think subject and object don't arise simultaneously together. We think we can have a subject without an object, or an object without a subject. We think we can have like something existing that a mind couldn't know. Which a lot of people in the West dwell in kind of this nihilistic agnostic place. Like all this, there's some, but I can't know it. Well, if you can't know it, then what's the point? So from Dharma point of view, either it's known and you can be a valid cognizer, or you don't need to know it, or it's not real. So that's always the big problem, is we separate subject and object, and we try to transcend them into some kind of, false spaciousness. But
Yeah, it was my sense of boundaries is they always arise with a very strong sense of me.
yes, so that's usually how we do things, is we've made the boundary the me, and identified the me with the boundary. Yeah. The me has its own kind of boundary, but just to use the driving thing, and like the sense of me-ness won't help, knowing how to drive on the right-hand side of the road in America. That's primary. So we like, I don't care really what other drivers are thinking, right? Just stay in your lane and don't cut me off and stuff like that. So the boundary moves from being a solid me to more of a we world, right? The we world's the real world. We're in it together as a me, but the real world is the we world, right? And that's very hard for people to get, because it does take a strong and flexible personal self, which we're not negating, to make it through the world, particularly in this time in history. So that's why it's so hard to teach dharmas, because we have this Christian background and then kind of a psychology background, the political background, and but it all comes down to like, well, me, but as you say, it doesn't. But we still have a me. But then there's a you. So the you and me arise together, right? So there's a we. I'm still me and you're you, but there's a we. We're in the we world. Yeah. It's weird. Okay, I need one question from somebody asking, like, why do you guys do it this way? Whose decision was it to have? Why are some of the chairs gray and why are some maroon? Yes. Yes, that's right. Who said they were donated? What's your name, sir? I want you to keep coming back, Matt. Yeah, so there's been more of a value on donation than on uniformity, right? Because, and this is the interesting part, so a balance, like from a traditional point of view, which I hold, love, when people make a donation, it creates incredibly positive qualities, which we could say good karma. Because we feel good and people benefit, so it's a win-win. So in Dharma centers, we exist in a way for people to donate, which is totally different than Dharma club, which is like, what's in it for me? What's the cost? So that's why definitely in Asia, I mean, or even Tibetan refugees and or even here in the States, communities that don't have as much wealth have these huge temple systems because they understand that it exists through donation, right? And that's a positive like that. Does anybody else want to know why? Okay, good. Why do we do this?
Okay, so I've only been here like a little over a year. So this is my Sangha. This is, in my mind, they've been here since the beginning of time,
Okay,
you know?
all right.
So, but apparently that's not the case. I mean, maybe that's the case, but as well as the case that there've been a lot of other people that have come through here as well.
Yeah.
So what's with that?
Mhm.
And also, what's the difference? Like, how has the flavor of the Sangha changed over its years?
Well, there are a couple of questions in there, like what, why do people come and go, or like that, or is that one of them, or not quite.
I'm interested more in flavor.
The flavor. Right now, I would say the flavor is kind of like nice, ripe blackberries with a tinge of ginger, and like a kind of a little bit of a earthy kind of peaty taste.
Sacramento.
Well, I'd like to say that we're classical and that we're trying to teach really as much as possible what Shakyamuni taught. We're traditional, that I respect how it's been preserved, but we're also very innovative. So I think it has a little innovative flavor about it. So I like to see it as like kind of an innovative restaurant, so you can put together some flavors that are like different, but they're kind of familiar, but they come together in a different way. So you go, wow, the way they did those, like broccoli was really a little bit different. Like in order salmon, and then someone put some different sauce on it. Never, like pineapple on salmon. Doesn't sound good, does it? It does?
Yeah.
Okay, well, see, it's like that. So, I know when teachers that are very traditional, particularly Jada Rinpoche is very traditional, they have, I know they have that experience because I've talked about it. Like, wow, this is like, like you go to your favorite restaurant and like, I really like the way, you did the curry, but there's something different about it. And then we kind of go, Yeah, we put in a little Tabasco sauce or something, so it has a familiarity, but and a kind of a little twist to it.
It seems like to me, my experience is that it actually is an interdependent group. And so people bring their own flavors to it and it's
Yeah.
accepted
Yeah,
and heard, and so it makes something new arise from the blend.
yes. So we are very creative. I think that's troublesome for some people who, want a more fundamentalist kind of Dharma. But I feel I know we're doing totally classical traditional Dharma, or we wouldn't have anybody coming, right? So people are thinking, well, are we too freaking weird? Well, if we were super weird, nobody would visit us. But we're kind of weird, in a very inviting way, because it's really important. We're training, from my side, I want people to train for real life. I don't want people to be trained just to be a good Dharma student. So there's a lot of that, where if you just stay in a Dharma setting, then you got the Dharma language, and and if you just stay in your little pod, then you'll be fine. But that's not bodhisattva work. Bodhisattva work is you're stepping out in the community too. It's challenging because there's the boundaries here allow a lot of a lot of variety, but we're we have some, we still have a lot of structure. Like I want everybody to practice, and we're not we have people leading groups that might be fairly new, but if we're not promoting drug and alcohol use, if we're not promoting going out and killing people, if if we're not promoting all these negative things that we're promoting, telling the truth and being compassionate, then you just can't go wrong. Yeah, I just, people worried like, so when people get on my case, sometimes they say, well, okay, which tenant system are we talking about? So, and then,
There's room for them too.
yeah, there's room for that too. Like, so yeah, but there's quite a mix, actually. I'd like there to be more. Yeah. One last one.
So we'll get,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We'll come back. Yeah.
okay,
sorry.
I didn't mean to take yours. Anyway, I just wanted to make a comment that I first got connected in the late 90s, was my first connection. And then again connected in 2000, around 2006, and then came here to this temple in 2016. So I have seen a change. So I mean, for me, I just want to say how I feel the atmosphere, why I stuck when I came in 2016, and I did feel this great welcoming and this outreach, and a lot of bodhisattva feelings here now that I didn't feel when I first came. It was just maybe me, but it just seems that there has been quite an emphasis change, maybe, or whatever leadership, to bring this to be a very open, welcoming Sangha.
And maybe you've changed.
And I've changed a lot in the last 10 years. Talk about
Open and welcoming, and let's just,
yes, that's true. But I really do feel that this is a very open Sangha, very welcoming Sangha.
Great, you too.
Thank you for being a welcoming Sangha. Going back to the walls, I have a form of autism, and since my earliest memories, have felt my wall very significantly. And over the course of my life, I have tried to gradually spread it out and be open to not me, but it is still an ongoing struggle to recognize and welcome not me.
All the teachers I've trained with, are continuing their training. That's an important part about Dharma. So the path is always working. How do we work with the me, not me boundary, right? How do we see the interdependence of people that are other or that other us, right? So all the teachers are always working that boundary. What happens in our practice is we do become, I think, more resilient, and we see it as a bigger field too, and we realize we're not alone and on the journey. So even though there are many dark nights of the soul, and those are kind of necessary, and we are doing it alone in one sense, everyone is with us also. So getting that balance, of course, is it takes effort, or the Buddha wouldn't have said at the very end of his life, practice diligently. So it's really nice, not to be lied to. See that the Buddha really didn't say everything's gonna be fine, don't worry. I mean, which would have been, that'd be okay too in a way. But he really, wanted to make, just very direct. All composite things are impermanent. Practice diligently. So the emphasis in the Dharma is on so much is on right effort and intention like that. So please keep coming, and tell me your name again. Justin, thanks for coming. Yeah. Thanks for speaking. Yeah, it's great. So we should close, hopefully. No one's left out. No, okay.
Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholders of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losong, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones, merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators, please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losang Drakpa, I make request at your holy feet.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you all soon or later. In any case, it's good. Can we have some exit music, please?
Omo araya pataya na indi Om araya pataya na indi Omo